You're doing just fine. That's it, easy now. Good horse.
She was a millionaire who could buy any horse she wanted. But one mistake changed everything. She bought the wrong horse. Weak, quiet, useless, they said. But what that horse did next would save her in a way nobody could have imagined. Victoria Hale had built a life most people only imagined. She was a millionaire before the age of 40. Her name was known in business circles across the country. She owned companies, property, and more wealth than she had ever dreamed of as a child. People respected her. Some feared her. Many envied her. But none of them truly knew her. Behind the success and quiet confidence was a woman who lived alone. Her home was large and beautiful, but it was always silent. Her phone rang often, but the conversations were always about business. Every achievement brought recognition, but never comfort. At night, the silence stayed with her. There had only been one time in her life when she felt something different. When she was young, her father had taken her to a small ranch outside their town. It was there she had seen a horse for the first time. She still remembered the calm in its eyes, the quiet strength, the feeling of standing beside something that expected nothing from her. Years later, after her father was gone and her success was complete, that memory returned to her. Victoria bought a ranch far from the city. It was not for business. It was not for profit. It was for peace. She began spending more time there, walking the land, listening to the wind move through the open fields. But something was still missing. The ranch was empty. There was no life there. No presence. Victoria knew what she needed. She needed a horse. Not just any horse. One that would bring back the quiet feeling she had lost long ago. She did not know it yet. But the horse she was about to choose would change everything. The auction took place on a cold morning just outside a small country town. Victoria arrived early, standing quietly near the wooden fence as the horses were led into the open ring one by one. Each horse was strong, tall, and full of energy. Their coats shined in the morning light. Their movements were confident and proud. Buyers raised their hands quickly. Voices called out numbers. Decisions were made in seconds. Victoria watched carefully, but none of the horses felt right. They were beautiful, but distant. Perfect, but empty. Then she saw him. He stood at the far end of the holding area, separated from the others. His head was slightly lowered, his body still. His coat was dull, and his frame was thinner than the rest. He did not move with pride or strength. He simply stood there, waiting. Victoria stepped closer. The horse lifted his head slowly. His eyes met hers. There was no fear in them, no anger, only quiet awareness. A man standing nearby noticed her interest. He shook his head. "That one's not worth your time," he said. Victoria looked at him. "Why?" "He's weak," the man replied. "Doesn't respond well. Nobody wants him." Victoria looked back at the horse. He did not look away. Another worker added, "He was brought here because nobody could use him. He's not fast. He's not strong. He's nothing special." The auction continued around her, but Victoria barely heard it. The horse remained still, calm, patient. Unwanted. Forgotten. Victoria felt something she could not explain. It was not logic. It was instinct. Before she could question it, she raised her hand. "I'll take him," she said. The men around her exchanged surprised looks. One of them spoke carefully. "Ma'am, there are better horses." Victoria did not hesitate. "I want this one." Moments later, the decision was final. As the horse was led toward her, the man beside her said quietly, "You just bought the wrong horse." Victoria looked into the horse's calm eyes again. For the first time in years, she felt certain. She had made the right choice, even if nobody else understood why. The first few days at the ranch were not what Victoria expected. She stood near the fence each morning, watching the horse move slowly across the open field. He did not run like the others she had seen at the auction. He did not show strength or excitement. His movements were careful, quiet, unimpressive. Victoria leaned against the wooden fence, her arms crossed, her thoughts heavy. She had spent a large amount of money without hesitation, guided by a feeling she still could not explain. Now, she was not sure what she had bought. The ranch workers noticed it too. One of them approached her carefully. "Ma'am," he said, "we can still find you a better horse. One that fits your needs." Victoria did not answer right away. Her eyes remained on the horse. He stood alone near the far end of the field, his head lowered slightly. He was not restless. He was not aggressive. He simply existed in silence. "He doesn't respond," the worker continued. "We've tried guiding him. He follows slowly, but there's no energy. No spirit." Victoria felt doubt settle deeper inside her. She had imagined something different. She had imagined strength, connection, purpose. Instead, she felt uncertainty. That afternoon, she tried to ride him for the first time. He allowed her to approach. He did not resist as she placed the saddle on his back. He stood still as she climbed on. But when she gave the signal to move, he walked slowly, carefully, without confidence. Victoria felt frustration rise inside her. This was not the horse she needed. This was not the horse she had imagined. She stopped and climbed down, her hands tightening slightly at her sides. For the first time since buying him, she questioned herself. Maybe everyone else had been right. Maybe she had made a mistake. As she turned to walk away, she felt something behind her. The horse had followed her. Not forced. Not commanded. He simply walked beside her, quiet and steady. Watching her. Waiting. Victoria did not understand it yet. But the horse had already chosen her. Victoria began spending more time at the ranch. At first, it was out of obligation. She had made the decision to buy the horse, and she refused to abandon it simply because it was not what she expected. Each morning, she walked into the field, unsure of what she would find. Each morning, the horse was there, waiting. He never ran toward her. He never showed excitement the way other horses did. Instead, he watched her quietly. His calm presence followed her every movement. Victoria noticed something unusual. Whenever she entered the field, the horse would slowly move closer. Not in a demanding way. Not seeking attention. Just close enough to remain beside her. If she stopped, he stopped. If she walked, he walked. He never pushed. He never resisted. He stayed. One afternoon, Victoria sat alone on the wooden fence, her thoughts distant. The weight of her responsibilities still followed her, even here. The silence around her felt heavy. The horse approached slowly. He stopped beside her and lowered his head slightly, standing close without touching her. Victoria did not move. She could feel his presence. Calm. Steady. Patient. For the first time in a long while, the silence did not feel empty. It felt peaceful. She reached out carefully and placed her hand against his neck. He did not move away. He did not react with fear or resistance. He simply stood there with her. In that quiet moment, something began to change. Not in the horse, but in Victoria. And neither of them knew yet how important that bond would become. The night began like any other. Victoria had stayed late at the ranch, finishing a call inside the house as darkness slowly covered the land. The air outside had grown colder, and the wind moved softly across the open fields. By the time she stepped outside, the sky was black, lit only by distant stars. She walked toward the stable, her boots quiet against the ground. The horse stood inside, calm as always. He lifted his head when he saw her, his dark eyes watching her closely. Victoria placed her hand gently against his neck. "I'll see you in the morning," she whispered. She turned and began walking back toward the house. Then she heard it. A sound. Faint. Sharp. Coming from somewhere beyond the stable. Victoria stopped. She listened carefully. For a moment, there was nothing. Then it came again. The sound of something moving in the distance. Her heart began to beat faster. The ranch was isolated. Nobody visited without warning. Nobody came this far without reason. She turned slowly, her eyes searching the darkness. Behind her, the horse had moved. He was no longer standing still. His body was tense, his ears pointed forward, his attention fixed on the same direction. Victoria felt unease settle deep inside her. "What is it?" she whispered. The horse stepped forward suddenly, moving past her. This was not normal. He walked toward the open field, his movements faster than she had ever seen before. Victoria followed him, confused and uncertain. "Wait," she called softly. He did not stop. He reached the far edge of the property and stopped suddenly. Victoria caught up, her breathing heavier now. Then she saw it. The ground ahead dropped sharply. A steep slope led down into darkness. Victoria stepped forward without realizing how close she was to the edge. The loose dirt shifted beneath her foot. Her balance broke. She slipped. Her body fell forward, her hands reaching for anything to stop herself. Before she could fall, something pulled her back. The horse. He had moved instantly, pressing his body against her, forcing her away from the edge. His strength held her upright. Victoria froze, her heart racing. She looked down. The drop below was deeper than she had realized. Hidden in the darkness, impossible to see clearly at night. One more step, and she would have fallen. Her breathing shook. The horse stood beside her, his body still tense, his eyes fixed on the dangerous edge. He had known. He had sensed the danger before she did. He had moved without hesitation. He had saved her. Victoria slowly placed her hand against his neck, her fingers trembling. Moments earlier, she had doubted him, questioned him, regretted buying him. Now she understood. He was never weak. He was aware. He had been watching, protecting, guiding. Victoria stepped back carefully, away from the edge. The horse remained beside her, calm again now that she was safe. In the silence of that dark night, everything changed. She had bought him believing he needed her. But the truth was far more powerful. He had been the one protecting her all along. After that night, Victoria saw him differently. The same horse stood in the same field. His body was still thin. His movements were still slow and careful. Nothing about his appearance had changed. But Victoria had. She no longer saw weakness when she looked at him. She saw awareness. She saw strength that did not need to be loud to be real. In the days that followed, she began to notice things she had ignored before. He was always watching his surroundings. His ears reacted to distant sounds long before she heard them. His body sensed changes in the air, in the land, in the quiet rhythm of the ranch. He was not slow because he was weak. He was careful because he was aware. One morning, Victoria walked across the field without calling him. He followed. Not because he was commanded. Because he chose to. He stayed beside her, matching her pace, calm and steady. When she stopped, he stopped. When she moved, he moved. There was no resistance. There was trust. Victoria placed her hand against his neck, feeling the quiet strength beneath his stillness. "You knew," she whispered. The horse remained calm, his breathing steady. He had known the danger before she did. He had acted without hesitation. He had protected her without expecting anything in return. Victoria realized something important. Strength was not always speed. Strength was not always power. Sometimes, strength was awareness, patience, presence. This horse had never been broken. He had been misunderstood. Others had judged him by what they could see. His thin frame, his quiet nature, his lack of force. But they had never seen what truly mattered. He had never needed to prove himself. He had always been enough. And now, Victoria understood why she had chosen him. Or perhaps, why he had chosen her. After that night, something inside Victoria began to change. For years, her life had been controlled by schedules, decisions, and constant pressure. Every day had been about moving forward, achieving more, becoming more. She had built her success by never slowing down. But now she did. Each morning, she walked into the field without her phone, without distraction. The horse would see her and move toward her quietly, his calm presence steady and reassuring. Victoria began to feel something she had not felt in years. Peace. She spent hours at the ranch, not working, not planning, just being present. She watched the way the horse moved. Careful. Aware. Never rushed. Never afraid. He did not worry about the past. He did not chase the future. He simply existed. Victoria realized how much of her life she had spent chasing things that never gave her the quiet she truly needed. Money had given her freedom, but it had never given her calm. This horse had. He had saved her without hesitation. He had stayed beside her without expectation. He had trusted her without question. And in return, she trusted him. Victoria no longer saw him as a mistake. She saw him as a gift. He had given her something no business, no success, and no wealth ever could. He had given her stillness. He had given her clarity. And for the first time in her life, Victoria no longer felt like she was searching for something. Because what she needed had been standing beside her all along. People at the ranch still did not understand her decision. They saw the same horse they had seen on the first day. Thin. Quiet. Unimpressive. To them, he was still the wrong choice. Still the horse nobody else had wanted. One afternoon, a ranch worker approached Victoria as she stood near the fence. "You could replace him," he said carefully. "You deserve a stronger horse. One that matches you." Victoria looked at the horse standing peacefully in the field. He was not trying to impress anyone. He was not trying to prove his worth. He simply stood there, calm and present. Victoria shook her head. "He is exactly what I need." The worker did not argue, but his expression showed he did not understand. Most people believed value could be seen immediately. They believed strength meant speed. They believed worth meant power. They judged quickly. They decided quickly. They never waited long enough to see the truth. Victoria had almost made the same mistake. She had doubted him. She had questioned herself. She had listened to the voices around her instead of the quiet feeling inside her. But the night he saved her had revealed something deeper. He was not weak. He was aware. He was not broken. He was patient. He had never been the wrong horse. He had been the right one all along. People saw what they expected to see. Victoria had learned to see what others missed. And in doing so, she had discovered something far more valuable than strength. She had discovered trust. Time passed, but Victoria never forgot the night that changed everything. The ranch became more than just land she owned. It became a place where she finally understood herself. Each morning, she walked into the open field, and each morning, the horse was there. Waiting. Calm. Present. He never asked anything from her. He never demanded attention. He simply stayed. Victoria often thought about how close she had come to giving him away. How easily she could have listened to the doubts, the opinions, the voices that told her he was nothing special. If she had, everything would have been different. She would have never known the quiet strength he carried. She would have never known the way he listened to the world around him. And she would have never known how deeply one silent companion could change her life. People still asked her why she kept him. They did not see what she saw. They saw a horse that lacked speed, lacked power, lacked presence. But Victoria saw the truth. She saw loyalty without condition. She saw awareness without fear. She saw strength without noise. He had saved her life without hesitation. Not because he was trained to. Not because he was forced to. But because he chose to. Victoria stood beside him one evening as the sun disappeared beyond the horizon. The wind moved gently through the field, and the world felt still. She placed her hand against his neck, feeling the steady warmth beneath her fingers. In that quiet moment, she understood something she wished she had known long ago. True strength is not always visible. True value is not always obvious. And sometimes, the things we believe are mistakes are the very things that save us. She had thought she bought the wrong horse. But in the end, he had been the right one all along. And he had changed her life forever.